Shalom Israel. Quick video giving all praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai by Hashem Rakakadash. Barakatah Yahweh Barakatah Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostle, elder bishops, great millstone. My salutations to the brothers, teach word for the hopeful elect. Soon to be the elect, most high will. To the hopeful extended elect, shalom blessings. Getting right into it, our people, as far as a lot of that what happened in, let's say, the 80s and all that, beginning with rap, and not only just beginning with rap, but even the claim of these religious sects like 5 percenters and um, gangster disciples and certain movements, and they kind of fabricate Hebrew Israelite as a part of those movements. Even with Abba Bivens being on the scene in 1960s, and that it was a setup and staged to bring out all those other religions, because if you go back to the old school, now that all those a lot of those religious sects, that was a divide and conquer method too, because a lot of young dudes started getting into like Islam, 5 percenters, and all that. But us coming from slavery, getting whipped and all that, we wasn't talking about no damn Islam, man. We wasn't talking about no 5 percenters. That's after the fact that niggas got comfortable and free and want to express themselves even through music. So let's go back to a couple few songs maybe. What we are talking about when we are singing, those spiritual songs and which they call gospel songs, relating to what? Now it's a song called "Go Down Moses," and the lyrics is, "When Israel was in Egypt's land, let my people go. Oppressed so hard they could not stand. Let my people go." They talking about Egypt, man. You drop down. I don't never. And this is what we talk about. All our grandparents, our fathers, and all that. Our grandfathers and grandmothers, and how they slaved and worked hard, and we need to show them reverence. Well, they were talking about go down Moses, way down Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. This is the modern day Egypt, spiritual Egypt, and it's there's pharaohs now today. The spirit of Pharaoh, um, the spirit of Trump, you know, being the king of Babylon. So our people talking about Africa is the motherland. Well, why y'all were talking about Jerusalem then? It says, "Tell the Lord told Moses what to do. Let my people go to lead the Hebrew children through." This was a hymn. It's another one called, what is it? Swing Low, the one that's popular. Swing Low, written by a Gadite, a Northern American, so-called North American Indian, and it reads, "I looked over Jordan, what did I see? Swing low, sweet chariot, coming to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot," talking about the chariots in the sky, because that's why it says swing low. Ain't no talking about no four-wheel carriage, man. Coming for me, because so they knew about chariots back then. Same thing about when Moses saw a pillar of cloud by day, a pillar of fire by night. But then niggas got comfortable in America, and now they start doing their own thing, just like the Israelite thing, like going back to One West. Everybody wanted to be Hebrew Israelite back then. You had those other, people getting other religions, but those that did take of the Hebrew Israelites, they got comfortable and started doing their own shit and started saying their own stuff. Start, and start incorporating worldly shit into the ministry that was supposed to be the ministry of the Most High, Yahweh Yahushai, even disdaining the name, so to speak, or, you know. Uh, It said, I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Coming for it to carry me home. A band of angels coming after me. That's spiritual. That means it's not as the saving or salvation they were talking about, meaning coming to carry me home, which is Jerusalem. Let's talk about on the spiritual level with them chariots, man. It wasn't talking about no four-wheel carriage, man. You know, and our people are hypocrites. Playing like that because back then, like I said, coming from them whips and chains and shit, y'all, they were saying nothing about no Moors, nothing about no other religion, not hell, not even Christianity. They was practicing a secret church. It's called the Invisible Church. Look it up. Outside of the Christian churches, because the Christians were the ones that's coming to kill them. Then you had, then I looked up a list of black songs about Jerusalem in the '60s. Rocking Jerusalem by Ella Jenkins and the Goodwill Spiritual Choir of Monumental Baptist Church. The song references Jerusalem, which is a key example of a black song from the 1960s, man. The song is a high energy gospel and children's song that uses the phrase Rocking Jerusalem, referencing the joyous and ecstatic feeling of being in the holy city, man. You didn't even have these Edomites, these devils talking about and singing about Jerusalem. Walking in Jerusalem by Mahalia Jackson. Mahalia Jackson. She was a prominent figure, but she was in the 60s. But a lot of people knew about Mahalia Jackson, man. She was like probably the first Patti LaBelle, Whitney Houston, Shaka Khan in those days. Released recordings of this traditional gospel song, and it's traditional, including a version of her 1961 album, Every Time I Feel the Spirit. The song describes the ultimate joy of walking into the heavenly city of Jerusalem. Why wasn't they talking about Africa, man? That's why, yeah, it's Land Flowing with Milk and Honey by Nina Simone. This performance is a remarkable example of a black artist singing about the Holy Land in the 1960s. Although it is not explicitly about the city of Jerusalem itself, Simone, prominent jazz and soul singer, famously recorded this Israeli folky song in Hebrew. Yeah, because they stole our heritage, man. What do you mean they ain't talking about the Holy Land as Jerusalem, man? Jerusalem by, you know, so, and you could probably find many more, man. But they didn't want to, you definitely, they didn't want to expose that. Let me see. Let me just look up Rocking Jerusalem uh, lyrics right quick. And this isn't for no gain or no money, because these devils will try everything these days. Like I'm not even watching a movie or a clip. It says, oh Martha, ring them bells. I hear archangels of a rocking Jerusalem. Church getting higher, rocking Jerusalem. New Jerusalem, rocking, and it talks about a new Jerusalem in the scriptures. Oh Mary, oh Martha. So you could say what you want about, well, we're not, we're Moors, or we're 2%ers, we're 5%ers, we're, African Americans. Y'all hypocrites, because if, and plus, and especially to honor the foundation of elderly people that established some form of spirituality in America. I'm saying some form because they were duped by Christianity. Now they Christians, but they was talking about Jerusalem. They were talking about the Holy Land. They were talking about angels. They were talking about chariots. You know. So what it remind me of that scripture? Um, Forgetfulness or affliction. See, Most High know Israel back and forth. He know Israel like that term like the back of his hand, man. He knows Israel being hypocrites. He knows that that you know without him y'all ain't no people. He knows that y'all don't have no kind of y'all don't even try to go back to Africa. If the passport brothers, they should be the first trying to go to Africa if they believed in that African BS. That's the first flight they should have took. They ain't not going to Africa. And Africa is not if Africa was blessed with us because we in West Africa and we smaller regions around we people are scattered some places, but core of West Africa that would be booming over there. How is America better than Africa in everything in music, sports? You got people in the UK over there trying to get to America, coming all the way over here in America to make a record deal. A lousy, stupid ass fabricated record deal. Uh, Forgetfulness of affliction, King James version. That's why Most High is bringing it all in, because Jacob's trouble gonna get you, Negroes, man. You you so-called free Negroes is gonna chase you down like a lion in chasing you know a gazelle or a roe. There's no hope, and you're not fast enough because you're weakened by the elements and poison that this so-called white man is putting on you. Ecclesiastes 11:25. In the day of prosperity, there's a forgetfulness affliction. Yeah, them niggas took jobs. They took degree. You get your degree and all that. You know, you could be an entrepreneur. You could be a welder. You could be all this stuff. Like, man, America is great, man. I'm not going back to Africa. I'm not going. Oh, Jerusalem is our homeland. I'm not a Hebrew Israelite no more. I didn't carve my own piece of pie on the soil of America. I would think if these niggas were so proud to be black and black driven with power, they'd take over the government. We know we slaves. As Hebrew Israelites, we know we slaves. We know what the Most High blessed the so-called white man with. He's his sword. He's controlling the so-called white man. But you don't believe in that. So why don't y'all strike, man? Why y'all asking us to strike? Y'all should strike. Take over the damn government. All you black power driven Negroes and Negrettes out there, take over the government, man. I'm saying that because they're not gonna do that. And all the so-called white man has to do is offer you jobs and give you a stimulus check. You'll be cool. It says the blessing of the Lord is the. No, it says in the day of prosperity there is a forgiveness of affliction, and in the day of affliction there is no more remembrance of prosperity. Yeah, because when you get afflicted by these laws, by this martial law, by this sword of the Most High, which is the oppressor, the so-called white man, yeah, you're gonna forget your prosperity, and that's starting to happen now. It's happening on a level now, you know. And like I just got through watching Pastor Hart, he was going to the Moors and talking about how a man said that why we keep changing, kind of our identity as far as being Black African American, and then now they incorporating this kind of trying to what we sow this Hebrew Israelite movement or what we say of ourselves into the fabric of everything that we did in America that was black powered or having some kind of search for an identity. And the Most High said we would be cut off from our heritage, man. You know, but this is the last time we. I've never looked back. I've been believing in this thing ever since I woke up in the truth. I never looked back because I knew all that other shit when I found out the truth. All that other shit wasn't real. You know, it made perfect sense to me. But again, that's my. I'm just a man speaking. But how many Israelites? I mean, how many? Just say so-called black people are willing to go back to Africa right now, or willing to, you know, set some kind of standard against the government, or you know, uh, you know, uh, form some kind of movement to make it make sense that we're from Africa. Make it make sense that we should be going back to Africa gradually. We should get our money together and save and buy our own planes and whatever planes, and we should go back to Africa. Yeah, they voting and asking for rights and shit. You know what I'm saying? Asking for better jobs and shit. I mean, y'all the ones that boast yourselves to be fed up with America. You know, we know this is our suffering. This is our punishment, so to speak. But we're Most High is getting us out of it. We're already out of it spiritually. It's just the physical effects. But some men that claim to be um, anything else besides an Israelite, they weren't saying that coming of the fathers and out of slavery. They wasn't saying that shit. And then they always said, "Well, we the sons of the fathers. We the ones that's gonna set it off." Well, set it off then, man. Because even if you go back to Africa, they gonna like they did IUIC. I mean, I just gotta set that as an example. They gonna run you out of there, man. I think that's it, man. But yeah, more just means dark skin, so-called black, like the apostle was saying. So that's not a nation. That's not even a religion, man. And your religion is supposed to be of what you do as a nation. Those are not two separate things, man. But let it be in America, this place of confusion. They didn't broke all that shit up to where you have, you know, a million parts to one piece. You don't have to be that complex. That's confusion. Most High said He made evil and good. He made it's a up and down. What I'm saying. It's two sides. It ain't no all this complex shit. That's what the so-called white man creates confusion. That's what Babylon is about. This America is confusing. That's why Negroes and Negrettes are confused about who they are. But when they was on that boat, they wasn't confused. They wanted to. They was singing about Jerusalem, wanting to go home by the millions. They were butt naked and didn't have couldn't wear clothes for as symbols to symbolize where they're from, like an African medallion or Africa on their shirts or something like that. Your ass was stripped, butt ass naked, with rag clothes on, man. You couldn't represent shit but by a voice among a congregation of people of your own, secretly and trying to be invisible. Because if he caught your ass, that's your ass. So don't act like y'all was just all these, you know what I'm saying, these prominent, dominant teachers and shit. Y'all came from slavery in the core of America. We talk about, okay, I can understand that. Moors and all that. It was time back then during the Byzantine Empire, Spain and all that. We ruled Europe for 1,000 years. They don't talk about that. They don't talk about that. That's bigger than being called Moors or being known as Moors, ruling Europe. So that means, hey, we was calling ourselves, we were speaking in Spanish. We were uh, so-called Europeans because that wasn't even a thing. It ain't really even no such thing as Europe, but it is a bottomless pit. It's nothing there, no sources. But at the same time, you know, if you came today and said, well, and told somebody you're European, they'd be like, you're not European. You're not a so-called white person. So Europe doesn't mean so-called white person. It doesn't mean that you're a Caucasian, man. It wasn't even a continent. But Jerusalem and speaking Hebrew and being of Israel means you're an Israelite. Back then, people named the lands after their names, after themselves. Have you when Negroes? And I'm gonna close out because I'm talking a little bit. But when Negroes buy a piece of land, do they name it after themselves? No, they just, you know, the so-called white man pushes them to come out with a name. They say, well, here's a house, and then you got to sign your name to get this house, and then you got to sign your name. So they say, is this the Jones residence? Is this Smith residence? Is this the Jackson resident? Is this the Johnson residence? But let that be a Negro without having to sign papers. He ain't gonna name his home and his land after himself. But that's what they did back then. So when you were in Israel, you and Jacob, it was a man named Israel, Jacob, that got his name changed to Israel. And if you in that land and of Jacob, his seed, you're an Israelite. No matter where you go in the earth, you're an Israelite. So you can't escape these your nationality, so to speak, or your race. You know, because there's no such thing as a more religion or more a land of the Moors. They were just being called Moors, known as Moors. You know, but even over here in America, there's America. It was named after a man named Amerigo Vespucci. So all his seeds supposed to be here. The Americans, his family, his sons, his daughters, his nephews, his nieces, and his father and mother, and all them supposed to be here. They would be considered as the Americans. So how are you African American? How are you even an American? And you ain't not from the loins of America Vespucci. Show me where the Moor father is. The father in his seed line. There's none, man. That's why Jake barely referenced himself as a Moor because there's no real history behind it. So he just say African overall, but he don't even under he there's no history in African. He when he talk about his history, he talk about Black history that happened on the soil of America. As much as he want to be from Africa and talk about Egypt, there's no uh, extensive information that they can apply themselves to where they're able to boast themselves that yeah, I came from Egypt. No, they talk about Rosa Parks. They talk about um, the Black Panther Party. They talk about all in this soil coming from the '60s, man. You know, Muslim 5%ers. So we'll see, man. We'll see what makes sense and add up mathematically. This is about truth, man, and that don't make no sense, man. And they can barely do extensive research here to where it makes sense. Because all that civil rights movement and all that, Martin Luther King, It just led up to our people voting and depending on the government. So I'm pretty sure they took it back. But this is not of man. This is of the Most High. And that's why another reason why these religions are jealous of the Hebrew Israelites, because it's standing. It's still standing. It's not uh, tempered or tainted like theirs. You have the biggest ass religion in the world, Christianity, and they got a problem with little us and shit. Get the fuck out of here, man. That's why you devils are going down, man. And Christians, they're murderers. The Christians that were born in the land of America that came against us as a people, they're murderers. But let it be known too that we're the real Christians, the anointed ones, and we say that Lord will, Mashiach. So they're the really anti-Christians. They're the real anti-Semitics. And I'm saying that in a way to how they're presenting it and presenting themselves, because they are Shemitic. A lot of Esau and Elam and Moab, they're all Shemitic, but the way they present it spiritually, they're anti-Semitic, man. You know. Anyway, hopefully it's edifying. To the next video. Shalom.